This call is
Okay.
being recorded.
Well, okay. Yeah, I was seeing you on YouTube. You had some really insightful things about the gang stalking stuff that's been going on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well,
Yes, I had watched a lot of your videos before. You talked a lot. You used to talk a lot about Jordan Maxwell and all kinds of stuff about gang stalking and the legal system, and so I remember you quite well. I know I've heard of you, and I've seen your videos too. A lot of them.
oh, yeah, I didn't. Yeah, when you said that, I was like, wow, because there's so many people on Facebook now who come
Yeah.
out. Like, I see so many people on there, and you're one of the people I come across. They're like, yeah, I already knew who you are. I seen you on YouTube, and it's like sometimes I don't have any idea how many people I've seen my videos. You know. And
Mhm.
I'm just glad, I'm just appreciative and glad that there's people out there paying attention, because it's like, it's very hard to find people who actually listen to what you have to say or know what you're talking about. And it's like, I was watching your videos and I know exactly what you're talking about when I see your videos, but there's other
Uh
people who
huh.
come across your videos who might try to say you're delusional or you're crazy, but in reality, they just don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. They already do think I get a lot. Most people do think that I'm delusional and crazy, or I get that all the time. My own family, especially. So, you know, but I know what's going on, and anybody who's targeted knows that they're not just making this up. What about you? What have you gone through? It sounds like you've been through a lot yourself. When did you first find out that you were being targeted?
I had a weird feeling that people
Yeah.
were watching me, and I didn't understand, like I didn't comprehend that what was happening, but I started seeing people looking at me really strangely, and I thought that people were just being rude. And then I went through a whole day and I realized there's not that many people in the world who are rude, you know.
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it, and the thing about it was I was like, I don't know who these individuals are, but I know they're following me.
Uh huh.
And I start then, when I first noticed it, I didn't notice the lights, like the gaslighting stuff, the color
Mm.
coding thing. I didn't notice that. It takes a while to pick up on the organization of it and notice the little protocols that are used. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this was like around 2015. Um, summer 2015, late going into early 2016, that I started researching online, and I came across something called gang stalking, and I'm like, what the hell? And there
Really.
was yeah, there was dozens of YouTube videos of people all over the country saying people are following them around, and I was just
Yeah.
like, man, this is crazy. But then again, I was kind of thankful too, though. I was once I
Yeah.
found out
Yeah.
what it was, I was happy, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah. I found out, and I had known that I was being stalked. It started a long time ago, back in 1997, but then it wasn't until 2004 that I accidentally found on by typing in words on my computer that I just landed upon a site about targeted individuals, and that's how I found out about gang stalking and all that. But I'm glad I did, because I didn't know how to put all the terminology together. I just knew that I was being harassed and stalked and everything. Uh, I've
It
been going through
reminds
this
me.
for a long time, long time.
Have you ever seen the Scientology videos of the fair game, where when an individual's in Scientology and they leave, sometimes the Scientologists in an organized fashion come after them and like chase them all
Yeah,
over the city?
yes,
Right,
I have.
right, right,
Yeah,
right. And so a lot of times people ask me, they're like, what's contract stalking, or what are you talking about? And I'll show them the Scientology videos of how an individual leaves a Scientology group, and then the
mm,
Scientologists follow them around. And I've had people explain to me how incompetent like how incompetent like the policing agencies are, how incompetent the medical field is, because
Yeah.
when you go and you look at a psychologist or a psychiatrist, when you go and look at the little dockets they have on how they do tally points to see if somebody's crazy, the exact same things that they're looking for to see if somebody's crazy are the exact same things that are happening to somebody who's actually being stalked by a group of people.
Yeah. Yes. Have you been to a psychiatrist before? Have you ever had?
Yeah, I went. Well, it wasn't a psychiatrist. I went through a big court thing, and I had to go to this clinic and talk to these people. But the people that I was speaking to, I had to sit there and explain to them step by step by step, and show them all my interviews and what I was talking about. And then I had witness testimony of other individuals that were telling me that they had been approached and asked to follow me back and forth in the store and stuff like that. But then I had numerous people all over the country come to me and say the exact same things that you've been saying are happening to me. But they say they say I went to my doctor and my doctor told me that I might be exaggerating or I might be under the weather or some such thing. But I always say to the person, has there been a criminal investigation? And they would say no. And I would say, well, a doctor cannot make a legal decision. Or a doctor is not a police officer. A doctor is not an FBI agent. A doctor cannot do a criminal investigation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But, what happens, though, is that a lot of these doctors and these places that you go in public, they're all working with the fusion centers, though. They're all, you know what I mean? They're all correlated to work on people who are targeted individuals. That's how they coordinate, is through the local fusion centers in your city.
I think I can definitely go for that. I think there's been a lot of famous cases of people who've been victims of covert harassment, and there's women who have been targeted by their husbands and their husband's employees, like from fusion centers, from police departments. There's some sick individuals out there who work in law enforcement who do this stuff to people, like the Paulina Cooper story. She was a journalist.
Who?
Paulina Cooper. Paulina Cooper.
Yeah.
She was a journalist. She did a story on Scientology, and in response to her story on Scientology, the Scientologists started stalking her, and they were trying to get her put in prison, and the FBI had to raid the Scientology. The FBI raided one of the Scientology offices and rounded up like 7 Scientologists and put them in the federal penitentiary for covertly harassing Paulina Cooper.
Oh wow! How long ago was this?
That was back in like the 70s.
Oh, I think I believe I remember hearing about that. I read about that somewhere. I think that sounds familiar.
Right.
Were you affiliated with the Scientology people at all yourself?
No, I'm not. I've never been affiliated. I just know from doing the research on gang stalking that I came across Scientology stalking, then I came across Zrzet song. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I was reading more about that. Yeah, this whole gang stalking totally mimics that. It's exactly what is going on, except it's just a newer version of it because of all the advanced technology, more or less, same thing. It's almost the same thing. It's a very fascist, totalitarian society that we're living in, and people have just basically, it's like the Constitution is just pretty much null and void because nobody gives it any credence anymore. And all these people are given this immunity who do this gang stalking. They're basically being told what to do, but they don't have any real training, tactical training, but they don't know what they're doing, really. But they're basically working for the police. And the police are going to claim that they don't know about this. Well, that's a flat-out lie because they're the ones who are basically orchestrating this in the cities. where this
That's
happens.
right. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Is nobody is insured. Like when you go into a
Nobody's
courtroom,
insured.
when
Uh-huh.
yeah, when you walk into a courtroom, the judge is
Right.
insured. That if the judge
Insured.
makes
Right.
if the judge makes a legal decision and damages somebody, he's insured. He can be sued. If a police officer is unethical or breaks the
Mhm.
law on duty, the department has insurance. They can be sued. But who has insurance on all this stuff that these people are here doing? And they hire people who have felonies.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what so doesn't make sense about it, is that the very people who are committing these atrocities are ex-felons, or they are people who are on probation or whatever, parole, or they've been given some kind of alternative sentencing. And so that's what they get the choice to do, is they have to basically become a snitch or a community informant or a confidential informant. And that's what's happening. It's like, but it's gotten out of control because since they don't have any immunity, they basically are they're getting they are, the whole idea is to get you to react violently in public, so that they can have witnesses, and so that they can have an excuse to put the targeted person in prison or in a mental hospital. That's pretty much it. And it makes a person so crazy after a while that literally that's why so many targeted people end up committing suicide, or they die some unnatural premature death because of all the
Right.
stress that it
Right.
causes. Right,
Definitely. Definitely. And this goes back to some of the research. I have been doing some research on the Soviet Union, which that's where the
Yeah.
Zet Sun came from, was the communists, in Eastern Berlin. But in the Soviet Union, if a journalist said something that went against the hierarchy of the communists, whether it be Stalin or Gorbachev or whatever, they would say that the person was mentally ill and put them
Mhm.
into some sort of concentration camp medical facility for an indeterminate amount of time, just because they wanted to express freedom of press and freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And that is criminal within itself.
Yes, it is.
That's anti-American, that's anti-government, because in the United States of America, people have a right to freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, freedom of religion. If you're trying to prey upon an individual for speaking of their constitutional rights, you're anti-American and you're anti-government and you're the criminal.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you're very right. Have you heard of something called the Rutherford Institute?
No, I haven't.
Really? It's a Rutherford Institute. This man named John. It's a man named John Whitehead, who's a civil rights attorney, and he has a website that's called the Rutherford Institute. It's an institute that he started, and it's basically to help, his organization, a nonprofit that helps people, like targeted people, I guess. I mean, people like in situations like this who don't really have anywhere to turn and who don't really have a real chance of getting legit legal help that they need when they have some kind of smear campaign going on against them or whatever. So you might want to look into that. Like if you're in any kind of legal mess, um, I don't know if do you feel like what do you think instigated your targeting? Is it because you were researching things about the occult? Was it because you were in contact with, maybe Jordan Maxwell? Or what do you think it is that triggered this stalking campaign against you? Or surveillance? What do you think
Vulnerability.
happened?
I was vulnerable. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what was going on. I don't think it was one particular thing. I just think I was outspoken and I was
Yeah,
vulnerable because
yeah,
it happens to people. Like there's all sorts of different people. There's all sorts of different groups and all sorts of different people who prey on people and harass people. And I don't think it's like, there's a protocol the federal government has, like the ATF, even the DEA, the FBI have.
yeah.
They don't negotiate with terrorists.
What do you mean they don't negotiate?
Like if the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms have to go to like they call it a terrorist task force. In they have a protocol that they go by where they don't negotiate with terrorists. And when it comes to people who just like follow people around and scare people, that's terrorist activity, and there's no way to negotiate with a terrorist activity. Like you can't negotiate with a terrorist, basically.
Right.
So I don't think it's one thing I did or didn't do or whatever, because it's stuff like that happens to all kinds of people. It might not have anything to do with anything on YouTube. It might have been a letter I wrote. I used to make phone calls to colleges all over the country. I might have made a phone call to one college and asked some questions about some research I was doing, and the people took a personal vendetta. Who knows? You know?
Yeah. What did you go to? What college did you go to? Did you go to?
I didn't go to college. I used to research at different colleges.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. So, but did you live in California, or did you just go there to visit a lot?
I just went there to visit sometimes.
You did, yeah. So, okay, but you're from Michigan originally, is where you grew up.
Yeah.
Do you think your parent? Do you live with your parents, or are you close with your family?
A little bit. I live with a lot of different people. I don't have one place. But.
Yeah. I wonder if they have anything to do with your family.
No, I don't think so.
No, that's good. Yeah, no one really knows for sure why they get targeted. It can be so many different reasons, you know.
Right, but the whole thing about it is, like, say you're living in a certain area, and there's individuals who are stalking you, kind of like if you watch the old COINTELPRO, like the old COINTELPRO stalking activity. That was illegal, but it was going on. But if you go and you watch some of these old videos, and then you look at some of these neighborhood watch group cases, you can see how, it's ordinary people who are doing this. These people don't have, like, when you see people in your neighborhood doing this, these people aren't card-carrying members at Langley, Virginia, doing it.
No, I know. That's what the problem is like they don't have any real training to even know what they're doing. They're just causing a lot of havoc and problems for society by doing what they're doing. And they know what they're doing. They know it's wrong, and they know that it's a crime. But they're given immunity by the sheriff's department, by the fusion centers, by the police, unfortunately, because because of the way policing is today is they want everybody to be an It's like the police don't seem to know how to do their own job. If you wear a uniform, you have a gun, that's your job. You're supposed to protect the citizens. That's what they haven't. That's what they're supposed to be doing. But they seem to not be able to do that, and they don't even. There seems to be a lot of corruption in the policing nowadays. And I don't know. I find that it's absurd to be using community people or informants like this who basically have no idea what the hell they're even doing. They're getting on their phone, they're doing this little street theater stuff, they're mobbing people in public, and it's like they don't even know what they're doing. So what doesn't make any sense, It really is so stupid. The whole thing is so asinine. It's almost kind of laughable at times.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of that police officer, Jack McLam. Have you ever heard of Jack McLam before?
No, I don't think so.
I guess he passed away recently, but he was a retired Phoenix police officer, and Jack McLam was trying to explain that a lot of the issues in the department have to do with, like the training that's going on at the academies and whatnot. But he was a very outspoken police officer in his time. And there's a lot of them like it. You come across, there's a lot of police officers on the internet who talk about this kind of stuff.
Really?
I've noticed that. There's a lot of government agents, like Ted Gunderson. There's a lot of government agents on the internet who talk about it.
Yeah, Ted Gunderson talked a lot about it. He basically exposed all the stuff that was going on in the FBI with all that human child pedophilia and things of that nature. Yeah, there's a lot of people who come out and speak against it, but usually you find that a
They
lot of
get
these
targeted.
people end up.
A lot of police are scared. A lot of police are scared.
Yeah, yeah.
I think a lot of cops are scared to say anything. But you have anti-corruption, you have anti-corruption units and stuff like that. Even they don't do anything about it. They're not going to get involved.
They don't want to get. Most people don't want to get involved with this because it's way too kind of controversial, or it's a little bit too dangerous, I guess. And people don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to lose their reputation. Because once you start talking about this kind of thing, it's like everybody just sees you as being schizophrenic or delusional or whatever the label is. And
but
because people don't.
But the whole thing about, like, one of the biggest things that gets me about the incompetency of a lot of medical staff is this is just the honest truth. If you go back and you research into harassment, you research into even mind control experiments, a lot of times it was people at prisons who were picked. A lot of times it was people at hospitals who were picked. Like, people prey on victims. Like, there's a lot of mentally ill schizophrenic people who are victims of harassment.
Well, yes, I know. There's a person. Go ahead.
Just because somebody has a mental issue does not mean that they're not being harassed or stalked or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree with you 100%. They become these people are the ones who are the victims, I think, more than anyone. It's like a war against the so-called mentally ill, but a lot of these people are actually not mentally ill. It's what's happened to them that they are reacting and acting out against what's happening to them, so it makes them look mentally ill, a lot of them. Maybe some of them genuinely are mentally ill. Sure, there are people who are mentally ill, but not everybody. But you get labeled as being that way the minute you start talking about this kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of mentally, like I remember there's another researcher I was listening to, and he was making this point. He was saying, especially in America, there's more prisons than anywhere, and a lot of people go to the military to avoid going to prison. And when they get out of the military, a lot of them go into the private sector, or they become cops, or they become some other form of law enforcement. So you have a mindset. If you really think about it, a lot of these people would have been in prison had they not went to the service, and now they're on the streets with guns patrolling.
Yes, exactly.
If you really think about it, that's.
You're right. That's a very good point, and it's very accurate because these people. I mean, it's kind of fun I like to observe police officers and security guards, and if you just kind of watch them, not conspicuously, but if you observe the way they behave, they seem to be very paranoid. They act like they are. It's very odd the way they behave sometimes because I don't understand that. It's a strange kind of mentality that they have, some of them. And I watch them all the time. I mean, I've been to the police academy. I spent time I went through a lot. I know all about the psychology of a lot of these people because of my own experience of being around them so much. It's a very strange world that we live in. And it's almost like it's like they're trying to save face. They're trying to present themselves as being somebody who, it's like it's all a facade, really. People are so concerned about what everybody thinks about them and about, looking good and projecting a certain image that they just sort of like become these hive-minded robot type people, and they sort of lose who they are. It's like people are human beings. Nobody's perfect. But you know what I mean? It's like an ego trip for these people. Like they constantly are like on this ego trip, it seems like, where they have to, they have to like prove that, look what I can do, and look how fast I can drive my car, and look how well I can use my gun or my weapon, and you know what I mean? It's like it's so militarized that It's just fear mongering to the extreme. There's not a threat to this country. There's no terrorist threat. Do you think there is in the U.S.?
No,
No, and there really
no.
never was. Like 9/11, what do you think about that? What do you feel about 9/11?
I'm very open-minded on it. I'm not really sure about the specifics of what happened, but I'm open-minded. I'm not. It was never one of my subjects.
Do you think that it was a Mossad operation? Do you think it was an inside government job, or do you think that it was actually a terrorist attack?
I don't know.
I don't
know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
but it's a lot of, I don't watch the news.
You don't?
No, I don't watch the news. I watch YouTube mostly, and but when I look at YouTube, even my research subjects have always been old stuff that's really old. When it comes to what's going on in modern times right now, I don't really believe much of any of what I hear. Whether it's on the radio or the newspapers or even the new movies that come out, I just don't watch them.
Don't? Yeah, I don't really watch them either. Like you, I just kind of like YouTube and researching and books, and I have a hard time watching a lot of movies because it's something always triggers. There's always something that relates too much to my own situation or my past that I can't, Sometimes I get really aggravated with it. The whole, yeah. And I lived in LA for several years, and I know about the whole. I was heavily stalked when I lived in Los Angeles. It was awful when I lived over there. Terrible stalking.
What about all the women being raped, though? I've spoken to a lot of women who were being gang stalked, and one of them said some guy came in her house and beat her up and raped her, and she called the cops, and she called the cops, and the cops tried to convince her that that it never really happened, and she just got drunk and had sex with some guy or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I don't know. I mean, she probably is she someone who says she's a targeted person? She's a targeted individual.
She was being followed around. She was a single woman, and she was skinny too. It's she was a smaller woman, and she was being followed around by a bunch of weird guys in trucks. And then one day they came to her house and beat her up and raped her.
Is she? How old is this lady? Do you know?
Her 40s.
Her 40s. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that they did do that. It's possible that somebody drugged her and raped her, and then the police very well could have tried to hide that because maybe they were bribed. I don't know. But if that's the situation, that's terrible. Because if somebody's been raped, that's a serious issue. That's a serious crime. That's not anything that's very traumatizing.
Right. Yeah, it's some interesting stuff.
They do gaslighting. These people are able to go into your residence and they can do all kinds of manipulation tactics to make it look like it was, they are able to cover their tracks. In other words, you know what I mean? If they're able to do these sorts of things without leaving much evidence behind, except that's when they do the gaslighting to let you know that somebody's been in your house by leaving little calling cards around, little hints and clues that someone's been in your residence. That's what they do to me. That's what they've been doing to me for years and years.
Right. It's because it confuses the individual. You don't know what's going on. You know what I mean?
It's meant to confuse the person, to make you look great, to make you feel like you're going insane, when in fact they're the ones orchestrating it to confuse you. So it's just a sick. Some people are very sadistic, predatory in nature, and they just don't know any better.
You know what? You know what? All the victims contact me because there was a 16-year-old girl, and she emailed me, and I asked her how old she was, and she said she was 16 years old, and she said her father really won't listen to her, and when she goes to school, they're following her around with black SUVs and stuff, and I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm 30-something years old, and a 16-year-old younger female is coming to me telling me she's being stalked, and her parents won't listen to her. Like, what the hell is going on? You know?
Yeah, just be kind of careful, especially because she could be underage. You know.
That's the first thing I thought.
They could be trying to entrap you or something.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. That's the first thing I thought. But I believe that she didn't live. She lived so far away. I don't believe that was the scenario. But she sat down and explained to me what was happening, and the way she explained it, I knew she wasn't making it up.
Yeah.
You know,
well, probably.
and so, like, that's pretty weird. A 16-year-old girl being followed around by black SUVs and stuff. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty strange, but it doesn't really surprise me, though, in a way.
Right.
Because you don't
right.
know.
And if the father was a real man who would listen to his daughter, she might end up running off and getting addicted to crack cocaine and end up selling her body in some whorehouse somewhere because he wouldn't listen to her in 5 minutes. So.
Yeah. Gosh.
Are you think about it like that? When you think about it like that, you know.
Yeah. Are you able to hold a job where you live?
Oh, a little bit. I do odd jobs and stuff.
Yeah. That's good.
Right, but I was gonna say, why don't we take a break and we'll I'll edit through this and stuff and I'll show it to you and of course we'll talk and everything and then we'll come back at a later point.
Sure, sounds good. Thank you. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, I'll talk to you in a little bit. I'll hit you up on because we were already talking before this, you know. But
okay, sounds good.
And you want me to put a link for your site, or do you want to tell people? Do you want to remain anonymous, or do you want to tell people?
You can put the link to my site. That's fine. I've got a lot of, some of my videos are pretty angry. I get really mad, and I don't really. That's just the way it is. But sure, go ahead. It's fine if you want to. I don't mind. Sometimes I say things that I don't always, but whatever,
Okay, sounds good. But I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
Bye.